you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? Well, that's what we're trying to uncover. Encounters with darkness.
French? Italian?
Now we have sound.
Oh, and they are on the dimmer switch, which will be nice when you're doing filming. So I'm just going to back them back down. Now, would you prefer lights on or lights off, or do we go to it?
Oh, it don't matter.
Dimmed.
Yeah, let's have them dimmed.
Dimmed? Okay. We're going to hit down in the basement first. As you come up this bottom step, slow, just be careful.
Oh, yep, that slips. Be very careful.
This leads up into that kitchen area that we came past. That was the superintendent's kitchen up here.
Oh, okay.
So, superintendent section, laundry room back here, and they have a storeroom / workshop back here that they could use. Over here, though, this little area had a slightly different purpose.
This where they would visit?
Huh?
Where they butcher?
No. No, it is not, but I see there's a channel in the floor. The channel in the floor is there because actually where you're standing, there used to be a small cell right there. As I said upstairs, everyone here, it was a mom and pop operation, so The superintendents were not equipped to handle anybody coming in who was schizophrenic or in any way violent to themselves or others. So anyone who came in here to be admitted that was in that kind of condition was brought down here and put in this small cell down here. And then they would call the state police to come pick them up and take them to a facility in Richmond or Muncie, about 30 minutes away, where they could get the treatment that they needed. So there was a small cell here, and the trough here is because there's obviously no bathroom facility down here. Now, we don't have any records showing anybody having been down here in the cell for more than 2 or 3 hours before the police arrived. Now, if they ended up with 2 in here at the same time, they didn't want to put them in together because they hurt each other. So, number 2, unfortunately, did not quite get as luxurious an accommodation, shall we call it.
Shackles.
Yes, they had a set of shackles up here for the second violent inmate, I don't know what you want to say, second mental patient. And again, we don't have anything that's showing anybody having been down here for a terribly long period of time. But you hear people talk about rumors of tortures in the basement, and I think this is where those stories come from, and it's all malarkey. Stride? Stride?
What?
Mirrors? Crystal balls, that kind of stuff?
Oh,
Tarot. But that's about as much as I get into that.
You get your pendulum and tarot.
Yeah, pendulums. I have a crystal ball, but I don't use it.
Apparently this is a really good space for scrying because someone brought in this mirror and left it here because it had such good results, I guess. So there is a mirror here if any of you get...
they just didn't want to carry it back.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
But a lot of people do come down here and use it, and we periodically come down and wipe off all the baby powder that people rub all over it to do their scrying.
You have 2 people here that hate mirrors.
Yeah, right. So, this is a typical basement. So, it's generally used for storage. The utility rooms are down here. The residence dining rooms are down here. It wasn't used as residence rooms, typically speaking, except during World War II. During World War II, you have a lot of men who were deploying overseas. Their wives and children were left stateside, and the military was crap at spousal pay. So we had a lot of women and children who were losing their family homes and actually ended up in here in the asylum. And a lot of the gentlemen upstairs, we are on the men's side of the building. The gentlemen upstairs gave up their rooms and moved down here to the basement so the women and children would be above ground. The other exception to it being used as a residence room is this one.
There's flowers.
So for whatever reason, when they built the asylum, this is the only room in the asylum that has bars on the window, which came in handy. Because in 1936, a lady named Ida Gunkel was admitted to the asylum. Her husband died about 6 years prior, and he died of syphilis. So you have a pretty good idea of what was going on with Ida. After his death, her son did the best he could to take care of her, but by 1936, she deteriorated to a point where he just couldn't do it anymore. So we brought her here to the asylum. She had a room upstairs on the first floor on the women's side, and she was fine for the first year and a half she was here. But in 1938, she would deteriorate to the point where she would come out of her room screaming, pulling at her clothes, scratching herself, and they were terrified she was going to get hurt. And they didn't have the heart to send her to a mental facility in the 1930s, which was, horrible places to be. So to try to keep her safe, because this is a 350-acre working farm with all the equipment and the livestock, and we're on a highway, and there's the creek and the drop-off and everything else, during the day, she could do what she wanted to do. But at night, to be sure that she would be safe, they moved all of her belongings down to this room, and at 10 o'clock at night, it lights out, they would lock the door, tell her good night, and then go to bed. And then at 5 o'clock in the morning for wake up, they'd come down, open the door, and let her out, making sure she's safe. Well, it was August in 1938, and she asked Mrs. Thornburg, who was the matron here at the time, for a broom. It's the basement. She brought her a broom, told her good night, locked the door, and went to bed. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, when she came down to let Ida out, she found that in the night, Ida had taken the broom, put it over the pipes, ripped ticking off of her mattress, wrapped it around the broom and around her throat, and had hanged herself in the night. When she found Ida, her feet were both on the ground and she was leaning forward at a 45-degree angle. We pulled her death certificate, and her death certificate that says that she died of strangulation. So that's not any help. So we're left with the question, did Ida step off the bed and strangle to death and the ticking stretched overnight, which left her with her feet on the ground? Or did she step off the bed, misjudged the length of the ticking, landed on the ground and leaned into it? We don't know. So this is Ida's room. You'll find that there are rooms in the asylum that have slanted walls. Any of the rooms you find that are slanted walled were never used as a residence room. In this case, it's a workshop. Most of the other rooms that you'll find that have slanted walls have something to do with medical. So we are in the workshop, and I want to draw your attention to the corner, and I want to make sure I'm not shining this in anybody's eyes. Any ideas what that might be?
Laundry chute.
That's exactly what it is. It is a laundry chute which leads to a workshop in a building where all the residents did their own laundry. Confused?
Yep.
We'll learn more about that laundry chute as we go on our tour.
Okay.
It's significant.
So I will just stand here and shine a light in because it's very tight in there. This will be the first room that anyone coming into the asylum would enter.
Is this a shower?
It's a delousing chamber.
Okay.
So every resident of the asylum would be put through the delousing chamber. This is the furnace room. You're welcome to go in there if you want to. There's the old coal fire furnace in there, and the new. They closed in 2006, and in 2005 decided to install a brand new furnace. County government again for you. You're welcome to go in there if you like. Just don't let the door close. It does not open from the inside.
Gotcha. So that's
However,
where
I will
that's how we get stuck.
I will be back tomorrow night at 6.
But we'll be there.
So all our rations.
So this is a utility room, and through here you can see the original coal room. In 1899 when it opened, it was a coal-fired water heater, coal-fired heat in here. So this was coal storage, and the wall right there is obviously new. So you used to be able to take the coal straight from the coal room right into the furnace. Now for informational purposes, this has nothing to do with any of the history. If the water decides to be uncooperative, we have been having issues with our pump and well. If that happens, this box right here and this green button is the reset on that pump.
I should know.
Yes, very important.
I remember that.
Did you hear the...
This space is the other exception to residence rooms. So in 1906, a gentleman named Anthony was admitted to the asylum. He was an African-American gentleman, and anyone who became a resident here, if they wanted to, they could take a job and work inside, or they could work on the farm, but it wasn't ever a requirement to be here. Anthony chose to work, and the job that he chose was to make sure that the furnace and the water heater were kept stocked with coal. So for him, the most convenient place he felt to be able to do the job effectively was from down here. So he actually had his bunk in this area, down here. As we're going to the asylum. I'd like you to keep in mind that the asylum was segregated by gender. So you were on the men's side of the building and the other side is the women's, but it was never at any point in time segregated by race.
I love that we made a train.
Yeah, y'all went together and grabbed me like, well.
I love how the guys just waltz up.
I didn't see her. Like I thought she was still walking. We're in the ghost hunt. Yeah, we're not.
Oh, so I'm sneaky. So
You got it.
that bell rang 5 times a day,
Oh God, that's horrible.
every day, for wake up, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and lights out. In the 1990s, this converted to basically a nursing home, and they decided everybody in here is an adult. You should be able to wake up when you want, eat when you want, whatever. They tried doing away with the bell, and that lasted for about 2 weeks. Everyone was so institutionalized by that point that they were absolutely adamant that the bell would be brought back. So that bell, except for 2 weeks, rang 5 times a day. Every day this place was
Sure
open.
that structure helped them with their sanity, kind of staying in here too.
I think so. That make me go insane.
So this is the men's dining room. And other than the bell on the wall, watch out for our elemental who runs the walls in here. Little black ball of energy, it runs through the dining rooms, both of them, and in the kitchen. So harmless, just it's fast and it's like a cat jumping out at you more than anything else.
I like cats. Ooh, they're pretty.
So there on the silver tray is a picture of one of our more well-known residents. That is Doris Addington. When Doris was 2 or 3 years old, she was kicked in the head by a mule, and it did something to her speech. She had a hard time articulating what she was trying to say, and so she was mistaken for being slow in a lot of cases, which she wasn't. She just couldn't talk very well. When she was 11 years old, her parents were killed in a car accident, and her 2 older sisters thought that that would be a detriment to them all being adopted together. So at the age of 11, Doris was dropped off on the front steps of the asylum, and her sisters went to the orphanage. So from the time that she was 11 years old until she was 83, when she passed away, Doris lived here at the asylum. And she was one of our residents who chose to work, and she chose to cook. So for 70 years, every meal that was served in this place was prepared, at least in part, by Doris Addington. So this is Doris's domain, and she will talk to you in here. We get a lot of good EVP sessions, mag-light sessions down in this area of the asylum. Paranormal Lockdown spent the week here, spent the night here, and they were woken up in the middle of the night by this.
Great.
The sound of our refrigerator, which looks more like a sauna than a refrigerator, actually. Very cool little piece. This does open from the inside. It's just kind of hard, and you need to put a little bit of oomph into it.
Like every walk-in.
Yes. So.
You're still hooked on me? We just went in circles together. You're so tight. My defense, I'm holding the camera.
And here we are on the women's side of the building. This is the women's dining room. All the women would gather here 3 times a day to take the meals. The foundation on this side of the building is about 8 inches thicker than it is on the south side to help keep out the north wind that we get here in Indiana. For the history nerds, that is the original cast iron, coal-fired, 1899 water heater. Oh, she's a plumber. Yeah. Cool. And this is the residence laundry room. So we're on the other side of the gender. Anyone could come down here anytime they wanted to take care of their lawn.
Is that what they call it? Is that what they call it back there?
Yeah, taking care of your lawn.
We'll meet at the laundry room.
I do a lot of laundry. You laugh, but I have 5 kids.
I got one that can barely keep up.
Oh, see, I'm stupid. My oldest is 25 and my youngest is 7.
Oh,
So I never
my
figured out that
cow.
doing laundry does that to you.
Depends on the kind of detergent, really.
This is a slanted wall again. So this was a medical supply room.
Hog trough.
Oh, just the ladder, No hog trough, sorry. In here, you can see that there is a window that's been filled in here, and then in the corner there, you can see the door that's been filled in and the mason's mark on the keystone. So this wall here, if you look at it, and then look at the wall behind you, 1851 foundation, 1899. So this was the original entrance into the 1851 foundation. The slaughterhouse is that gray building immediately behind. So they slaughtered the animals out back, cut them into halves and quarters, and then brought them in through the door over there into the basement of the asylum to finish doing the butchering. The room next door we call the meat room. In 1899, when this place opened, they continued with that practice of using that room because the floor was already contaminated. So they just continued using it for the butchering. So if you want to go out and go around the corner, we'll go into the meat room.
Actually, where Anthony was in the room with the bars on it, felt like water pressure there.
My husband's prior service, he did 4 tours, 2 in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan, boots on the ground, running around, picking on shooting people. He won't work in the cracks me up to know that he's not out of it. So, this is the meat room, and this is the original 1851 butcher block. It's one of the few things they managed to save from that first asylum. I always look at it and wonder how many chickens lost their lives right here. But you can see on the wall where there were hooks and shelves for hanging up the knives and saws that they would need to do their butchering. So they bring the half in here, cut it up into pork chops, wrap them in paper, and throw them in the freezer. But we call this the meat room for another reason. In the 1920s here in Randolph County, there was a cholera epidemic. And if you know anything about cholera, it is highly contagious and highly deadly. And the undertakers and coroners here in Randolph County simply could not keep up with the body count. Because you have your cholera victims and you got Uncle Joe who died of a heart attack. Can't keep up with the body count, so they made an arrangement between the county commissioners, the superintendents, the ambulance services, that any overflow of bodies they had would be brought here to the asylum. And this room was used as a makeshift morgue. They would pile the bodies along the wall over here between the 2 doors until the undertakers had time to come out and do the embalming. They did embalm them in this room, wrapped them in paper, and threw them in the freezer with the pork chops.
Oh, wow.
Delightful. Well, actually very sanitary because it's actual freezer, not a refrigerator, so it's getting cold enough to kill the bacteria. So it was actually okay. But they did have 3 deaths here though, and they tried to pass them off as being food poisoning. If it had been food poisoning, it wouldn't have been 3 people, it would have been 30. All 3 victims of the food poisoning were elderly women, so they have weakened immune systems. We are on the women's side of the building, and they are walking past a pile of contaminated bodies 3 times a day to go to their meals, if they're doing laundry. So they didn't die of food poisoning, they died of cholera. The deaths of those 3 residents led to the end of this being used as a makeshift morgue. And people will point out to me, well, there's no drain on the floor for them to have been doing embalming. That's because it was a dirt floor at that point in time, and after the cholera epidemic, they added 18 inches of concrete to the floor, which you can see, if you see the door there behind the shelves, you can see that that door wasn't used often enough for them to bother moving it before they put the concrete down. Hello again. Oh, that's a creepy crawl this time.
Is that lost?
No, it's not feels.
It's a little centipede.
Okay, he can stay.
Yeah, he can stay right where he's at and do his thing. So as we go through the asylum, what I tell you, I have documentation for. And if I don't have documentation for it, I will tell you that too. This room is one of those cases where I do not have documentation. All we have are first-hand accounts and second-hand stories of a rape that was committed in this room that was rather brutal. And we have a lot of psychics coming in that tell us they won't come in this room because it's so dark, the energy in it. So I said, I can't prove it, but we hear it happen, so I'm telling you it.
Yeah.
You can go out to the left, and then before you get through the doorway, there's a set of stairs to your left. You can go back up those stairs 100.
Don't
Careful.
fall.
Big old spider in that one.
Don't say that.
He was a big one.
This one.
Right around the back. And the two hallways function on separate light switches. So light switch over here. And you said you wanted on but dim. There we go.
Great.
No, I'm just waiting for someone to go or let me speak through.
You got chapstick?
Weird.
This is the women's side of the building. And you'll note that on this side of the building, when we go to the men's side, you'll see these rooms are actually quite a bit deeper than they are on the men's side, which actually comes in handy because we have a lot of women and children in here, so they need the extra space.
They just couldn't add carpet, could they?
No?
It's easier to clean up.
Yes. So, speaking of children, this is Noah's room. Noah and his mother came into the asylum in 1943 when they lost their family home. Noah was 8 years old. He contracted measles, and he passed away here. This is Noah's room. People leave Noah's room. The only toy that we really notice him playing with, other than balls that end up all over the place in here, is this one. Little tin toy would be from his time period. This is Noah's room. Sorry. Go ahead. Don't apologize. Just shut me in.
Oh gosh, Ashley, it's your favorite room. She hates dolls.
No. I have something that'll make you feel better. I promise. Right there.
There's a Barbie. Oh my god, and she's got some money.
Stripper Barbie. Always adds a little bit of levity to the spirit of this room. She's made us $32 so far. So she is working it, girl. So we are in a room with a slanted wall. So this is a medical room. The last couple of months she was alive, Doris Addington had pneumonia. And she was brought to this room to receive care here at the asylum. She requested that her doll collection be brought in here with her. So the dolls that you see on the bottom row here on the shelves, these were Doris's. The The only one we know the name of is this lovely lady in dark blue here, whose name is Scarlet. And the others have been added by visitors coming in, my boss, who's got a twisted side, and finds from yard sales and such things. But the dolls that you do see did belong to Doris, and she did pass away in this room. Some people have reported being able to talk to Doris in here, but she's mostly down in the kitchen. That's Doris who's down there. So, upward and onward. Yep. We'll get you out away from the dolls.
Oh, I'm gonna take on that spider.
I'm sorry, that's kind of a neat thing to do, cover the light and walk in blind. But it's just so much fun.
There's always one in the group, right?
Yes, there's always one. Always one. It's usually like the biggest dude, though.
I'm a big dude in Target.
So this is the women's chapel here on the first floor. Each floor and each side has its own chapel, and they do floor church services here every Sunday. A lot of the pastors in town would volunteer to come out and do it, so it was non-denominational services, but there were 4 held here every Sunday. The restrooms here, if you have restrooms on this end of the hall, do not work. I am begging you, please don't use them.
No problem, no problem.
Use a laundry chute.
We still see in the story.
And this area here is the women's community room here on the first floor. They have tables and chairs, televisions, books, games. They can come in here and relax, kick back, enjoy each other's company, smoke, drink, tell lies to each other, whatever. Just the only rule is no men are allowed in here. And you'll see that there is an old filled-in fireplace downstairs next to the furnace room. Those are the cleanouts for these fireplaces.
What's the...
Strung
Okay.
like this.
We have some psychics here whose colors are purple. So they strung up a bunch of lights, which is fine. And then they left them here. And we had ghost hunters in who discovered that those lights made a perfect laser grid from down at the other end of the hall. So maybe it walks in front of it, you can see them. We have a burned bulb somewhere in that mess. And I don't want to look for it. So, at some point we'll replace those lights. We just haven't gotten to it yet. But that's why they're there. Psychics brought them in. Ghost hunters decided they were cool for, spotting stuff.
Nice. We brought our own laser grid.
My general message. She said something about it. There's like a black orb.
Oh, that was in the basement somewhere.
By the
coal or...
Yeah.
And that's where we put the noise out of.
It's one of those things where if I seen them again, I remember.
It was the rumor of where the noise is.
All
All right. Let's go.
You want to smoke one?
This is the slope one. Yeah, watch the last step. I don't know if I've got hopefully the mic is recording. We run into so many issues.
We could do a test right now just to make sure we're back and play it.
Well, I tested it before, and we've done that before.
And then it still didn't.
Yeah. Is it the other way? Could be the other way. What's your camera pointing? Oh, you got it.
Where's your camera pointing at?
Well, I'm pointing at the ceiling, so I don't know. Dun, dun, dun. This one's her room. Yeah. We were just making sure you're okay. Yeah. like the color of these hands. Teal and purple. Gives it a nice sequin color. Because back here is her kitchen. I don't know where that room is. Well, we have the quarter court. All right. Hi, Doris. Look at all those standing up. Were those standing up before? No. Guys! Come here! They are being creepy.